I remember being at a Vols game, whole day. It was like 30 degrees on a Saturday afternoon, like 5 o'clock. And what happened? Do you remember this?
Our brother-in-law gives us a call. He's got a rental property, didn't have a property manager, and the heat went out. The elderly lady that lived there, it was just an absolute panic.
What do you think is the difference with what you see out there of people wanting to manage, self-manage, for example?
I think what they think is they're saving a little bit of money on the back end by trying to accomplish it themselves. But what they really don't realize is that, there's a headache that will set in if you're not built for this, right? If you don't have the systems in place to answer the 24/7 phone call,
yes.
If you don't have the vetted, qualified, and approved network to handle that maintenance issue, if you don't have the time to chase down the rent when it's not there on the 1st and it's late on the 6th, right? If you don't know how long you should have to return that security deposit after the lease ends before you lose out on everything, when you might have significant issues, the types of paperwork that you need to have to make sure that if you show up to court that the judge is going to approve whatever your case is because you did everything right? One misstep can cost you. In this business, you're here to make money, not lose money.
Tell us a little bit about what the liability is if you don't respond to something like that. Because like not having heat, for example, that's something that just cannot happen in a cold day, correct?
Yeah. Give an example, like your tenant, maybe an older person or may have some other medical issues, and there's just certain things that they can't go without, right? And no one should, by the way, go without heat, during the winter or, AC during the summer times, especially if they're paying you rent for it, right?
Yeah,
and it's your job to manage that. And so, neglecting to have systems and people in place or a manager that can handle that for you could put you in a risky situation. For example, say that, the tenant has, medical issues and they require insulin, and insulin's required to be refrigerated. Say they lose heat or they lose refrigerator power and the refrigerator goes out. You might be at the Vols game. That doesn't matter to them. And then after a while, that very expensive medication could spoil and no longer be good for them. And because you didn't respond, now you're in a situation where you could affect the health of this person. They may not have the money to pay rent anymore because they have to buy new medication. And in worst case scenarios, say they get hospitalized. Now you could be in a legal battle because you have to pay medical expenses for this person because you neglected to respond to an emergency outage within a certain amount of time, right? So as a, professional property manager, our job is to have systems in place and people there that can answer that phone call 24/7 and they start working the tenant's needs. A lot of times tenants just want to be heard. Right? So let me get on the phone with you. Let me come out to the property. Let me ask you these questions. Let me figure out what's happening. Let me triage the equipment. Let me figure out, is this something that just happened because it was, natural disaster or whatever, that took place? Or is this something that was tenant caused? Or is this neglect on their end? Or is this something that the life of, whatever equipment has just expired and now you need to replace it? The good thing working a property manager is, and if you have a great property manager, they have relationships with people throughout the community. So that, we were already out there in the field negotiating special pricing for you. We're already looking to see, can we save on a service call? If I bring a vendor to the table, I've already vetted them. They do great work. I'm already looking at their background and I know what to get before and after pictures, write-ups. And when the bills come in, then we know hey, this is the bottom line you're going to get for the quality of work that we need. And we got it done in a timely manner. And the rent is still coming in and getting paid.
Right. By the way, we did help that lady. Don't think that she was cold, but it was a lesson learned. We're like, never again.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to show up with a space heater and a few blankets while you figure it out because you are counting on other people, right? To have an expert in the area, there's a lot of 24/7 services out there, but it still takes time for them to come to you.
Sure.
So it's also important on the vendor side. As a landlord trying to self-manage, you can't just send, what we call chucking a truck to the house who doesn't have a license and he's not insurance and he's not bonded in that area to start working on your home, because that risk and liability could carry you into more litigation down the road if something happens incorrectly. Remember, when you're sending a vendor into someone's house, you want to make sure they have all the right credentials, whether they're, looking at a water heater or trying to fix floors and you're sending that into the client's home. They're trusting that you're taking the steps needed to get the job done the correct way and that you're vetting who you're using.
Sure.
And this will save you from trouble.
And you know what you just mentioned is passive. That person that is investing is not actively managing this day in and day out, solving issues.
We've seen so many stories where investors have bought properties and they want that passive income, but it actually turns into a full-time job for them along with their other job.
Right.
And they don't realize how overwhelming that could be. And it ends up costing them more in the long run. And God forbid they make a legal mistake.
Yeah.
You know, because they don't have that experience. They don't have that knowledge.
It's interesting when they call us and say, you know what, I think I'm ready to sell. We're like, why? You bought it a year ago. This is supposed to be, you know, a big investment. It's going to provide you with income. But they realize what Jason just said. It was too much.
Yeah.
It's become a second job for me. I'm having to call. I'm having to have issues with, we've had people that have bought a property. They had an issue with a stove that was broken and all these different things. And just even calling Home Depot and they shipped it wrong. And now the people are not happy and I need to cook. And like all these issues that are, it seems simple, but they're not. And they take a lot of time.
You can't put a value on your time. We want you to be able to continue on with your day-to-day, whether it's, you know, your work somewhere else, your family time at the beach or at the Vols game, right? Enjoy it. Yeah. Whether you're intentional or accidental, you know, we want to offer you a peace of mind. You know, I wouldn't expect you to jump under the hood of your car and fix the motor if you have no idea what's going on there just to save a few bucks. But let's actually talk about what we're doing. We'd love to talk about full property management services for you, where we can place a qualified tenant in your home, start with that rent collection, start managing your portfolio and sending you over those financial reports each month, but also help you protect your investment long-term. So preventive maintenance with the inspections. And then, you know, we also answer that phone 24/7 so you can continue on your investment journey.
That's amazing.